Actually, I told Chris, my co-founder, before we sort of did this, I said, Chris, you got to understand, it's a marathon, not a sprint. I know this because I've done this before, and I'm too old to be like doing all-nighters and all that kind of,
996.
996. Well, maybe I could do I do like 997, but I have to have, 9 hours. I can work 9 hours during the day, but that means I still get 8 hours, 7, 8 hours of sleep, and I have to do a workout. So
Yeah.
I'm not going to pull all nighters, and that's a 20-something's kind of game,
Yeah.
and I'm not 20-something.
Was that something that you did when you were building a cask?
I didn't do that, but I was on pager support, and the interesting about Kesk, right, is a messaging bus becomes, and this is different than Vectorize. A message bus, if you're using that, because of where it sits in the technology stack, tends to be sort of mission critical.
Oh yeah.
So if the message bus goes down, then everything fails.
Yeah. No task is getting delivered.
That's right. So I was on pager most of the time, and so I would often get called, like paged in the middle of the night. So I'd be waking up at 3 a.m. Wake up, shake off the cobwebs, try to fix a problem, get the problem resolved. Hopefully it doesn't take too long. But even if it takes half an hour,
You're too wired up.
can't go back to sleep again.
Yeah.
Right? So there's lots of times when I was doing Kesk, I would only get a few hours of sleep, which I wanted to avoid.
So it sounds like sleep is something that's very important to you. Is it for like thinking or quality of life? Or you like?
Oh yeah, I mean it's about thinking, right? You can't think clearly when you're tired, and there's certain, we were talking earlier about how, getting things done, I work my day and then I take a break to spend with the family and my wife and family, go for a walk, whatever, and then I work some more in the evening. But usually by the time I get to the evening, it has to be something very, not highly creative. It's just like some kind of chore or something like that, because I don't have a whole
Like a
lot.
repetitive, mundane thing.
Yeah, it's like some kind of maintenance. I can, or well, these days I can vibe code at that time because it's just like telling the AI what to do.
Yeah.
Not actually writing code, because I don't think I'd have a lot of brain capacity left by the end of the day.
Usually like at around 9-10 p.m. That's when I write code that I have to delete next morning.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't do. That's when I do my I spend time rotating keys. Doing DevOps work. I do a lot of DevOps work. It's not to say DevOps is all mundane and rote, but some of it is. And so if I have that to do, that's how I sort of do that in the evening, because I can kind of do that and not think too hard.
Yeah.
It's mostly just pushing scripts around and stuff.
So you've been a founder twice now.
Yeah.
What are you doing this time that is different from last time?
Well, this time I'm venture backed. It's quite a bit different. And I mean, I bootstrapped the first time, and in hindsight, like I quit my job. I worked, the company I worked for, Solace, I worked there for 12 years. I had a good job. Not crazy hours and good paycheck and all of that stuff. And I wanted to do something. I always wanted to try. And so I just quit my job and took no salary and tried to build this business.
Did you quit before you had the idea, or?
I had the idea, but I had I hadn't built anything. It was just an idea at the time.
Wow.
And so I quit. Yeah, I just quit one day.
And how old were you when you quit your job?
This was 2019. So I was in my late 40s.
So Kess is a pretty recent, I guess, venture for you.
Yeah. I mean, I founded in 2019.
Yeah.
And then so I was well into my career, right? And so, but it's something I always wanted to try. And so at one point I just decided, there was no opportunities for me. Like Solace had gone, was a small company, but it grew up into be a bigger company, and there was no I wanted to be exposed to different parts of the business. And Kesk was a huge learning curve. I learned so much in that time.
Like technically, or
No, actually it was about everything else. Okay. I mean, I learned stuff technically too. Yeah. But it's about everything else, how to set up a business, banking, finance, legal, all of these things, insurance, all of this stuff you have to learn, how to do payroll, accounting, all of that stuff. This is all important to start a business.
Yeah, we were just talking about how you would write like your legal docs or your contracts to a customer, knowing that the customer has more resources and potentially a legal counsel on their team, so they can do like due diligence on your documents for you for free,
I
essentially.
literally, yeah, exactly. Everything was a template. I
Yeah.
downloaded off. I paid like $125 or something for a service,
Yeah.
a template, and I literally did not ever consult a lawyer with Cass between when I started the company, because there's great services out there now. Like I'm a big fan of Owner, if you've heard of that,
Yeah.
for incorporation. I've used them twice now, and they're very helpful. And compared to, like, I've also used Stripe Atlas, which is sort of the U.S. equivalent of that.
Yeah.
Owner, us Canadians are lucky because Owner has
Really?
way better legal document support than Stripe. Stripe is very much just incorporate your company and that's all you get.
Delaware and then C
Yeah,
Corp,
Delaware
then-
and all that, but Owner and I knew, like, when I first used Owner before the Royal Bank bought them, although it seems pretty much the same now.
So now you like when you sign up, you have to get like an RBC account, and then
Uh,
you can get like $300 off.
Yeah. Yeah. You didn't have to do that back when I incorporated Cask.
So it takes you like what 20 minutes to incorporate, and then
Yeah, it doesn't take long at all. So I mean, but I didn't even know how to. I didn't at the time. I remember at the time it's like I got to incorporate the company. I don't know how.
Yeah.
I asked around because I was in the Invest Ottawa, one of the incubator programs there. I asked around some of the other people that were in the program, and someone there said Owner. They used Owner, so I looked it up because I knew about Stripe Atlas. I'd heard about that. You know.
Did you want it to be like a Canadian company at the time, or do you want it to be like a U.S. company?
No, I definitely wanted it to be. Definitely wanted it to be a Canadian company
Gotcha.
at the time, because I mean, I don't think it's a barrier. Like, so it is a barrier, especially in today's climate. And actually, you know, I've just spun up Vectorize Canada subsidiary.
What was the purpose? Is it to hire people or?
No, it's because of the political climate and Vectorize is a U.S. company because we
Gotcha.
incorporated in the U.S. So this is
For
just
customers.
to help, customers basically help get through procurement, compliance, and those kind of things.
Makes sense.
We have a Canadian sub, and I used Owner to do it again.
Nice.
Because incorporation is incorporation, right? So, and no sense paying a lawyer to do it when I can pay
A
them.
lawyer would be like what, couple $1,000s just to do the same thing.
A lawyer?
Yeah.
The lawyer that we have the Silicon Valley lawyer we have, which they probably couldn't do it because they don't have a Canadian, would be a lot more than that. They're
Wow.
expensive.
Cool. So I think at one point you said that at the most amount of employees are like people working on Cask was like 3, right?
Well, so like 3, but like we kind of had I had recruited some people to do part-time things.
Right.
So maybe like total like 5 or 6 people like doing have people helping out with certain things. But actually like day to day who were actually every day, 3 of us.
So 3 like technical, like basically engineers.
2 engineers and 1 product manager / business focus guy.
Gotcha. And then from the moment that you started the company to the moment that you sold it, there was one person you never met in person, right? Like only on remote calls.
Yeah, so the business product management guy, yeah, I've still never met him in person. Great guy though, and I've talked to him many times. He lives in San Diego.
Never visited.
No, well, I tried to one time. I was in Bay Area, and we tried to arrange, but the Bay Area and San Diego aren't actually that close to each other.
Yeah, and traffic must be
Yeah,
crazy.
and so it never happened. But yeah, I haven't actually never met him in person.
That's interesting. So and then you sold Cask to DataStax,
That's right.
and then you end up at DataStax working on streaming.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the story there?
Well, so like DataStax is a company behind Apache Cassandra, and so they had a Cassandra cloud service which they called Astra. That it was pretty early, like they had just sort of gotten it off the ground then, but they wanted to expand the product offering, and so as we were saying before earlier, when we were talking about Confluent, everyone knew about Confluent and Kafka, and so they were because Cassandra is a NoSQL database. It's very high scale, high power. It kind of matches nicely with streaming kind of capabilities with high throughput streaming, high volumes of data. It's kind of a natural pairing there, and they wanted to expand into this new market, and so they they targeted Pulsar, and I was one of the only Pulsar vendors in the space at the time.
And what is Pulsar?
Pulsar is a streaming pub sub streaming software that is similar. If you're familiar with Apache Kafka, it's similar to Apache Kafka, but it can do what Kafka can do, but it can do other things which I would associate with more traditional message bus functionality, like in TIBCO or ActiveMQ, those kind of message buses. And Solus, where I worked, we had a message bus. So the kind of what we call message exchange patterns. So Kafka has a small set of message exchange patterns. Pulsar has a much larger set of message exchange patterns and can do both sort of the traditional kind of message exchange patterns and the new streaming ones. And it had a very distributed architecture that was cloud friendly at the time. Like a lot of legacy hard software that goes back as far as Kafka was kind of monolithic and hard to decompose. Today in the cloud, you're going to architect something, you're going to want to separate storage from compute.
Right.
And Kafka, they've evolved it, but back then, for sure, it wasn't. Pulsar was sort of natively built that way, separating storage from compute, so then it worked nicely in the cloud environment.
Gotcha. And that was one of the reasons why I guess like people who were in the field at the time kind of knew that Kafka was making a lot of money, but then also this new technology was kind of like has a lot of potential. And you had an interview at YC at one point for when you started Kesk, right?
Yeah, that's right. So I think that was sort of Pulsar had come out. It was created at Yahoo actually by a team of engineers at Yahoo. They open sourced it, and then they open sourced it and it donated it to the Apache Software Foundation. It goes through a phase of whether it's saying that there's community adoption, and after a while, if there is community adoption, they promote it to a top level project. And that had just happened prior to when I started Kesk. So there was a lot of buzz around Pulsar at that time. And so then, and I liked Pulsar, and I decided to start my company. And as typical thing is, I'm an outsider. I've never been a founder before. I don't live in the Valley. I don't have any connections in the Valley. Y Combinator is ideal for those kind of founders, because you don't need connections, because anyone can apply. Mm-hmm. So anyway, I applied and I went through the process, and I'm a founder in the domain that's
market fit.
Founder market fit, right? I'm a domain expert. I've been working for a decade plus in this messaging space.
Yeah.
I'm working on messaging product. I'm technical. They prefer the technical founders at YC. So I had a lot of things going for me, and everyone knew about Confluent, which was making a lot of money at the time on Kafka. So I got through the process, and it was just at the beginning of. It was before COVID. It was before COVID at that time, but I don't know why there seemed to be a lot of remote interview process. Maybe it's changed all now because of COVID. But I did the online application, and I talked a couple times to the principal that I was assigned to, and we had a good conversation. So they invited me to go to the in-person interviews in Mountain View.
So you had to fly out by yourself, or did they pay for you to fly out?
Y Combinator pays for you to fly to Mountain View.
Thanks.
To go to the interview. And then you go through the interview process, which is very intimidating and challenging.
10 minutes?
Yeah, 10 minutes. I think maybe it was even 8 minutes. It wasn't even 10 minutes. And there's 8 people grilling you, asking you all kinds of hard questions that at the time I wasn't prepared to answer. I didn't know how to answer those kind of questions. Now I'd be much better positioned to answer those questions, because now I understand where they're coming from. So I went that far, but they didn't select me.
Okay. So you flew back, and you still built Kesk anyways, and then...
Yeah, I kept going. And actually, it was a good, by going at least that far, it was a good vote of confidence, right?
Right.
I thought I really applied just on a whim. I never really thought I would even get anywhere, right? So the fact that I got that far was encouraging. And then this is in late 2019, and then actually a lot of things are due to luck. So at the time, there was another company called Streamlio that had several of the creators of the Pulsar project working there. And Streamlio was acquired by, I've lost the name of the company now. Anyway, Streamlio was acquired by a large analytics, monitoring company. Anyway, it'll come back to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, they're acquired, and they had started building a cloud service. and it was in beta at the time. And I was kind of working on mine. It was in beta at the time.
Right.
But they got acquired by this company. It was more of a we want to use Pulsar technology internally to handle all our streams of metrics and logs and all of that. And so they shut it all down. So I was left at the moment. I was the only available, only game in town for a while, end of 2019. So then inbound started coming my way,
Yeah.
and the business started to really, grow fast. At least I was really encouraged. And then 2020 happened and COVID hit.
How did that change the landscape?
Well, it changed. Things were going really well. A lot of inbound. I was getting, as they often do if you're bootstrapped, right? You take on consulting contracts and these kind of. So I had like a consulting contract in Austria that I was going to work on, and they were going to fly me to Austria, and this was just, it was starting to snowball, and I remember looking at these growth projections, and it's like, wow, this is great. I might be profitable by the end of the year, and being able to pay myself a modest salary and all of those great things. And then when COVID hit, there was a bit of a lag. Nothing really changed for a period, but then everyone stopped spending money.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I don't know if you remember that.
That kind of affected everybody.
Yeah. So then they stopped. So like the project that I was working with in Austria, with the bank there, they totally canceled that project. And a lot of the stuff started just falling off. I still had some customers and good customers, but the inbound just dropped off a cliff. There were no one wanted to take technology risks, and Pulsar was a relatively new technology, and so the days of taking technology risks were just stopped right away. And so it made a big difference. Went from like, wow, projections look great, to like tons of uncertainty.
So how did you what happened between that time and then the acquisition?
Well, I was kind of just gutting it out, and actually, things were, I was running out of my own personal funds, and
How much of a runway did you have at the time?
well, I didn't have much. Like, I wasn't thinking in those terms. I had some personal savings that I could pay my bills with, and I was donating a little bit of money to keep the company going, but it wasn't very much, and we were kind of running out of money, and I was actually, and I had gotten to a certain threshold in revenue where my advisor, who I had from Invest Ottawa, told me, if you can get to this kind of a sort of ARR threshold, one of your options would be to do venture debt. And now everyone out there says venture debt, you should never take it, but I didn't have an option at the time. And so I talked to Business Development Bank of Canada, and they were very helpful. And so I actually had arranged to get I had a term sheet for some venture debt, which I would have.
To those who don't know what venture debt is, well, how do you explain it?
It's a loan for a startup company, and it has
Less collateral.
Well, the state I was in, I still had to put personal, my personal assets, against the loan. At certain points, the company gets big enough, you may not need to do that. But so I'm basically risking my house, kind of thing.
So your mortgage was on the line.
Yeah, kind of that. That was and because it's venture debt, they have a very accommodating repayment terms and things like that. And it's structured so that you can get going, right?
How's like the interest rate on those loans?
I think it was pretty reasonable. It was a little bit higher than you might get otherwise. But I think the main thing was you didn't have to pay principal for a certain amount of time. Anyway, so that's where I was, kind of like trying to get through that process. And then the CTO, Jonathan Ellis of DataStax, reached out to me through the Pulsar Slack community.
Oh, wow.
And so then he started, we started talking, and he, eventually got to the point. He's like, yeah, we want to talk about acquiring Kesk. So, again, I got lucky there at the time when things were looking a little bit bleak.
Yeah.
I got an offer from it was a strategic acqui-hire kind of thing.
So you didn't end up getting the venture debt.
Yeah. So and they were really good about it at BDC. I said, like, I just basically got a term sheet, and then I get this call, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm talking now about acquisition, and they're like, okay, fine, and so I ended up not accepting the venture debt at all.
Right. So if you were to take that venture debt, what would you have done with the money? Like, would you have just kind of like weigh it out, kind of like ride out
Well,
the
as it turns out, right,
COVID?
it might have worked out okay, because you remember sort of there was this in the tech space, right? There was a boom in 2021 where everyone wanted to buy everything in tech.
Yeah.
Like the share prices for everything went through the roof.
Shopify went
Yeah.
nuts.
And investment, like you could get 100 times revenue, like for any company almost. And so I might have been able, the venture debt probably would have bridged me long enough to keep going. And maybe I would have been able, who knows, right? But I could have raised some money.
It's crazy to think back on that.
I certainly would have been trying in 2021.
Yeah.
And so it could have worked out well. Could have worked out well. And also when you go through a transition, right? Like, things that started to pick back up, in late 20, the vaccine came out, sort of the uncertainty kind of was waning a little bit, right? People were in, this boom started happening in 2021. So, business, I could have seen the business reaccelerating again.
Wow.
Now, like a new competitor emerged in this space, but I was ahead of them, right? The challenge when you move from, you go from startup to acquisition now at DataStax is like, it took a while, like, and also DataStax was a database company, not a streaming company. So it took a while to sort of rebuild there and get reestablished. And in that time, the competitor had, time to sort of get back into the market.
How was it like transitioning from being a founder to somebody who works at a kind of sizable
Honestly,
company?
it was tough. It was tough. I had, getting back, like it's normal and like the challenge one is, like I said, they're a database company. They understood databases. They didn't understand anything about streaming, and they're similar technologies but different enough. So I spent a lot of time just trying to explain what it was, and so there was that impedance mismatch there, and then just everything. I remember it's like everything moves so slowly here. And not to say that DataStax was tremendously slow, because it wasn't. It's just compared to founder speed, everything moves slowly.
Right.
The other thing is, like, I solo built a lot of the stuff. I did solo built the first version of Kesk. So, you realize how much time you spend when you have a team. I had a team that was great, but how much time you spend with a team of explaining what you mean, debating in some cases the way to do something, and then changing your mind. Like, all of this stuff happens when you're coding by yourself. I'm sure you know.
Right.
Because all this stuff happens in your own head, and it happens very quickly. You don't have to explain anything to yourself.
The latency between people in the team.
Right, and getting people to understand, and then of course working with people who are coming from not a streaming background, it makes it harder. They don't understand what I'm talking about, right? Because I'm speaking in different technology terms. So just to okay, we need to do a marketing post on this and explain to the marketing team what streaming is, because they're used to selling databases.
Yeah.
And it's like, I say, you can't say that. That doesn't make any sense. It's just all that extra time. So it felt so slow.
Yeah.
Felt so, and I was working, actually probably at least as many, if not more, hours at DataStax just to try to get things established there.
Right, but not necessarily building the product, but like more so
like building, like
stuff.
trying to build, like we were taking we were building Astra streaming, the Pulsar version, but we didn't take the Kesk technology and bring it. We took the know-how, so we rebuilt it because they're using different technology, and we had to build it on top of their platform. So we're building Astra streaming on, as a second layer to Astra, this Astra Cassandra cloud service. And so we're trying to build that, and we're trying to sell it, and all of this at the same time. And we also grew. Like a team went from me and my co-founder Ming, 2 people, and we were working closely with the CTO. So now I have a team of like 15 people. Which is great to have that much of a team, but now you have management overhead.
Growing pains.
Yeah.
So what made you decide to leave DataStax to start another company?
Well, it was always, on my bucket list to do it. Like, I wanted to do it again. So there's 2 things I wanted. Felt like I needed to try again, because I learned so much the first time. It's like I can't make any more mistakes than I made the first time. So do it again. Second reason was, the AI moment, right, happened. ChatGPT moment happened, and it's one of those things where everyone could see a technology shift like this, and everyone's calling it, right. and is if you don't take advantage of that, you don't try something, you're going to regret it. And that was, I think it's Jeff Bezos has the regret minimization kind of strategy. So
when you're 80 years old, like
yeah,
look
it's
back,
like why didn't I try? Why didn't I try that? And also I wanted to try venture backed. It's different than bootstrapped. In a lot of ways it's easier, and in some ways it's harder. You have a salary, which if you're venture backed, you can pay yourself something, which I didn't have the first time, so it makes it a lot more comfortable. But the expectations are high, very high.
expectations from investors or from customers or from yourself?
In general, I think it's you feel. I would be lying to say you feel more pressure because you don't, because it's not your money, but you do care about getting returns for your investors because they believed in you, right? It's different when you're bootstrapped. It's like it's more, I'm gonna die if I don't. The business is gonna die. This whole thing's gonna die immediately. So you have more runway. You have more flexibility. You have a runway, right? But the challenge is as soon as you take venture money, you get some kind of implied valuation, whether you raise on a safe, and we raise on a price round, so we know exactly what our implied valuation is. And so you're under pressure. If you can't get to that valuation in real life, you're never going to raise any money again. And that's what you need to get to. That's the hurdle you have to jump over, and that's a high hurdle. Unless you raise a little, if you raise a decent amount of money, so that you have
Good team.
You can build a team and all of that. If you're going to solo found, sure, and you have then you can kind of go for a long time. But if you have a team and you have expenses too, like we got cloud credits, but we burned through those pretty quickly, and now we're paying our own cloud bills. So these kind of things add up quickly. So unless you can get back to that valuation to get higher than that, and the market is always changing. Whether you can raise or whether you can't raise depends on lots of factors. And you can't control that. It's just a matter of being in the right place at the right time. So we were at the right place at the right time. Investors in Silicon Valley were keen to invest in AI startups. Me and my co-founder, both from DataStax, both worked on streaming. And DataStax had invested heavily in vector database, so we had been working on that dimension. And so there's this founder market fit. AI is hot. We were doing retrieval augmented generation. RAG was hot at the time, so it was the right time for us to raise money. So there's lots of kind of things happen there.
Gotcha. And how has it been with Vectorize so far?
Well, it's been fun. It's been fun. I'm happy to be back in the founder mode, and getting things done. You have a team again, and so you have some of the same problems you had before. There's no easy way to get around that, right? But I've been managing technical folks for a long time, so one of the great things to have too is a co-founder, because I didn't have anyone at all.
Right.
For the first 8-9 months. It was just me with Kes, but this time I had a co-founder all the way to bounce ideas off and to work through things, and also having a co-founder who has sort of in Kes we were both engineers. Now we have like my co-founder Chris. He has sales experience. He has sales engineering experience. He has product management experience. So he has different kind of experience than I do. So we come with different perspectives. He's worked with marketing teams and stuff like that. So, in Kes, all of that stuff I had to figure out on my own. And now I have like someone who has,
which is great because then you kind of know what good looks like, right?
Yeah, it is a great experience, but it's also tough, right? Tough to do. And so it's been good that way. Like getting started, it's kind of, setting it all up was easy because been there, done that, right?
Yeah.
That helps. It was kind of stressful the first time because I didn't know how, what do we do about accounting? What do we do about, incorporation? What do we do about this? What do we do about, it's like, oh, at least I know what to do now.
Yeah. So, I started a company last year and I did it by myself, bootstrap everything. And just like how you said it, I made decisions in my head and it's so fast and I can just build stuff whenever I want to.
Yeah.
Right after a customer call, I just go back and build the feedbacks out.
Yeah.
And now I work on a few different projects, and one of them I have a business partner.
Yeah.
And what I realize is that once I start working with other people, there are certain things that I haven't developed in terms of social skills that starts to come out, and it's kind of like, oh, I didn't know how to do conflict resolution.
Yeah.
I don't know how to debate in a civil way.
Yeah.
And I'm really grateful for my business partner for like my side business to point out those things to me
Right.
without being like she's very like um, um, honest about it. She's like, hey, like when you say things like this, like it kind of like rubs people the wrong way.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, I guess like being in a co-founder kind of relationship, or being in relationships in general,
Yeah.
it kind of like points out to me and like how a lot of things that I could improve on.
Yeah.
Which could be scary, and maybe that's why I was building like my first company by myself.
Yeah.
But when you start working with the other Chris, your
Yeah.
co-founder, was there any interesting stories that kind of like in the beginning between you guys?
Well, I mean, Chris and I first started working together at DataStack closely, so we kind of knew each other. We knew our kind of way we would operate, right? And so it's been relatively smooth, and I've been in sort of middle management for a lot of time, and so some of these skills that I think I've developed some of these skills over the years, but you're not no one's perfect, right? So
Yeah.
you make mistakes, and then the stakes are high, right? So. But we have a good relationship. We sometimes we disagree and sometimes we violently disagree,
Yeah.
strongly disagree. But we both can step back from that and kind of talk it out. And it's good. And we had a pattern of we would try to get together in person every couple months.
Nice.
So we
Because
go.
he's not doesn't he live in Ottawa, right?
No, he lives in Colorado.
Yeah.
So we would go to Chicago. We'd spend a week in Chicago and we'd talk in person and get things done. Or we'd go to we went to Tampa one time, um, you know, or we go to San Francisco Bay Area, right? And then we meet some investors or potential customers and things like that. And so it's been good that way. We do that. I don't know if there's any major, yeah. I don't know if there's any really interesting stories. It's just because we've been working together like for literally like 5 years now. So
great.
not a lot of drama. Kind of figured each
You kind of know how each other works.
I got sort of the quirks out, and
Yeah.
that's part of what I think investors look for, right? Is that the founders, like one of the, I'm sure like one of the key reasons the companies fail is because the founders, one or more of the founders leave, like there's a founder breakup.
Yeah.
Right. And so, that's an important, an important kind of, dynamic to suss out, right?
For sure. So what's on the horizon for you or for Vectorize?
Yeah. So I think, we were talking about it earlier, we need to get into position. We'd like to get into position to do our Series A. And so we're building the revenue to be able to go and make that case. That would be plan A for us. That's and one of the things is like one of our differentiators on that level too is something called what we call bring your own cloud. This is something I did a lot of at Kesk and at DataStax too. This is where we deploy the software, the data plane, the data processing part of the software in the customer's VPC and manage it remotely. Like at DataStax, we had like dozens of Pulsar clusters we would manage in customer VPCs.
Are these like usually like self-hosted or like virtual? I guess like cloud provider like GPC.
Yeah. So
AWS.
the model that I use that worked really well is I say to the customer, it's going to run in your cloud. What I need you to do is to create a Kubernetes cluster in your cloud, which is easy to do in all the clouds. And then I use something called Teleport. This is I give my secret sauce. It's Teleport, if you've heard of it, does remote SSH access. Say, I need you I need to create a Kubernetes cluster. I need you to install this Teleport Helm chart, and then and here's a key to use. So now I can SSH into your Kubernetes cluster. And that's all you need to do. And if you ever don't want me anymore to get into your Kubernetes cluster, just uninstall Teleport because I won't be able to get in anymore. I don't need your keys. I don't need any access to your cloud. All I need is for this Teleport software to be running. I'll go on and now I install everything I need inside your Kubernetes cluster. And then we'll monitor it remotely from there. And that worked really well. And it all worked well for the customer because that's all they had to do. And this is what we do at Vectorize as well. We do the exact same model. And it also worked really well for us because I literally, from a DevOps perspective, operational perspective, I cannot tell whether I'm in my cluster, like my own self cloud, or a customer's cluster. They all look exactly the same.
That's great. So it's very ergonomic for you to just go in and do
Right.
the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. So I can take the exact same scripts, exact same processes, and just move them everywhere. And that's my preferred, like, strongly preferred deployment model. And it worked really well. It's worked really well.
And you've done that, at
I've done dozens.
DataStax
I've
and
done dozens.
Cask.
Cascade.
Yeah.
This is something I'm quite comfortable doing. I've done it many times. And Kubernetes is the great abstraction layer over this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone else is offering that. And I mean, if you're in a highly regulated industry, this kind of processing, and this is important to you. So I think that's a big differentiator for us.
Sure. Any last words before we end the interview?
No, I mean, I think, being an entrepreneur has been a great journey for me, and I've learned so much during the time. It's like, if you have the opportunity to do it, no matter where you are in your career, I'd say try it, right? Because even if you don't succeed, and the odds are low, you'll become a better person. You'll either have more knowledge and you'll be able to take your career farther. The only risk is, and I remember, I think I said this. I said this in my Y Combinator application, and it was totally true. And it's like, when I first quit my job to become an entrepreneur and start my own company, I was deathly afraid of not having a salary and having, that security of having a job. I was afraid of that. That was the thing that stressed me out, because I'm so used to, I was like, working for 20 years and getting a regular paycheck. And then 6 months into, being an entrepreneur, doing it myself, what stressed me out was going back to having a real job. That's the thing I didn't want to do. That's the risk, is that you never want to go back and be an employee again. Now, I ended up doing that, going to DataStax and being an employee, but
Not for long.
Not for long. I lasted 3 years.
That's great.
So,
Thank you so much, Chris. This is actually the first interview for this.
is
series.
it? Oh, great.
Yeah, so
Well, I'm happy to help, and glad that I was the first one. Honored, in fact.